what's going on with the NFL Seahawks beginning mini camp, and we've talked about the proposal for the elimination of OTAs, mini camp, and just having one long training camp. And sort of what's the impetus behind that? What's the motivation for asking for that? And you brought up the idea of, well, some guys, maybe they live in Florida and they don't want to fly out here multiple times and
back and forth.
How cumbersome is that though these days for guys like that? I mean, they're not flying with you in Group D on Southwest. So I mean, I don't know.
With Alex Cooper's bag up my ass.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That could be it. It could be the back and forth. Maybe that's, and they were talking about from the standpoint of injuries. So, we talked about this with Condotta down at
Brady, yeah.
And Brady, Henderson and Bob Condotta about, okay, we're all kind of trying to speculate, like, is it you get there and then, maybe if you start it earlier, you just sort of slowly ramp up, right? And then that might cause some of the hamstring pulls and soft tissue things to quiet down a little bit. That would be really the best reason and a good reason for the NFLPA to step in and say this really actually does something for players. But I don't know that that's the case.
Well, and those guys brought up a good point that they felt like it might be something the NFLPA is lobbing out there, knowing it's going to get rejected in order to say, all right, you didn't give us this, but we want this.
Part of the whole negotiating overall.
Yeah. It's a little chip that they're throwing out there knowing, they're not going to go for this. But, I sent you the thing last night about, the 18-game season that says the headline is the 18-game NFL season is coming, but the negotiating clash is just beginning. So there's a lot of that negotiate, and this could be part of it. The elimination of OTAs, like, all right, we'll agree to your 18 games, but you need to work with us on eliminating mini camps and OTAs and whatever else they've got in store. Do you buy that?
Yeah, I think here's one of the things I think where the NFLPA, what really strikes me is that it's like some of these things that you're talking about are not helping these guys become better football players. Like, and I felt like they've always governed with having the top starting guys in the league in mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like more than half your roster are not starters, and more than half of those guys are not, Pro Bowlers, or making the big, max out numbers. And so I feel like it doesn't help. It typically helps the veterans, what the NFLPA does, and then the guys that are the most highly paid, and which are probably 20% of your roster. I mean, a lot of it has to do with, like, a lot of these guys, they want to go to practice. They want to get better. They want to get, if you're DK Metcalf, you're like, oh, yeah, I'm going to blow that off. I don't need that. Okay, but what about, the next guy? What about the guy that's trying to make the team and, year after year, and now you're cutting down practice. Now you're cutting down the contact in camp. I mean, I do think that we were savages when I played. There's no question about it. 5 full contact, every single drill, every single thing, whether it was 9-on-7 or 11-on-11, was full speed. You didn't tackle people to the ground if you could help it, but lots of times people went to the ground.
And you were doing 2-a-days, right?
And 2-a-days, full contact for 5 days straight.
Which, looking at it now,
that's dumb.
It seems like you're going to get diminishing returns. You're wearing guys, even if you're not getting hurt in practice, you're just wearing yourself out, probably shortening the career of a lot of your teammates.
Yeah, I mean, and look, there was, I made it through that without injuries. Like, you ever get a bursa sack? You hit a bursa sack, and it explodes.
Got one in the hip. I got one in the,
I had one in my elbow, and it looked like Popeye, like a cartoon.
Remember Joe Montana had one.
Yeah.
It looked like an orange on his elbow.
Yeah, but I do think that toughens you up a little bit. But for the most part, that's my biggest complaint is that are these things helping your average player, your average guy? His career lasts 3 or 4 years. And, are they helping those things? And a lot of times they're taking away practice, and a lot of times they're taking away things where it's like, man, if they had that full contact practice, I know I could prove myself because I'm a tough guy and, I can get through this part of it. But if they can prove that extending this whole thing as far as what the NFLPA wants, certainly an 18th game, it's going to mean more money for the players, but it's also going to be more risk. And so where do you want to balance that?
Well, it seems like everything is about, from their perspective, lengthening the lifespan, the career life of their players. The limitations on practice, the hitting in practice. We want to, which some of it seems smart.
Sure, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, I can appreciate what it took to get through practices in your day, but I look at that and go, that probably wasn't the smartest way to get the most out of your players over a long period of time.
Right.
So I think they are on the right page when they're doing this, but to what extreme they're going to take it. Now, if you're talking about an 18-game schedule, you got to make up for that wear and tear, that extra week. That's a lot on the body. That's 18 games you're playing, so you got to take that away somewhere else where that contact and that physicality exists. We need to remove that because we're adding it here. Mm-hmm. You can't just pile it on and say, you're going to have the same amount in preseason and training camp and mini camp, and we're going to add another game.
Yeah,
I get the NFLPA, buckling under that or saying, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah, no, I understand that too, and I do think they're watching out for the players. And honestly, as much as I loved going through those double days and how tough that made me.
Did you love it?
Well, I mean, look, it was part of it. Like I wore it like a badge of honor. And like the dings that you would get that that's not a serious, like my elbow blowing up, and then they put bubble wrap on it, and then when the bruise came out, it looked like I had some kind of weird scales and disease or something.
You go, I like it.
But if that had been in place, my career ended basically because of something that happened in practice.
Right.
It was 3 days before our opener in 1994, and I was the starter coming off my best season, and I got my knee blown out in practice because we were going full speed. So it was some guy that they just hired who was a guard, and he fell and ran into my knee. And so I mean I'm kind of a little bit on both of it. I do think the older I get, the more I understand what the NFLPA is trying to do.
Yeah.